Yes, ma'am. It
Yes.
started.
Yeah. Thank you very much for reminding me. Yeah, let's go back to the slides. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for your patience and support. Right. So where were we? I was trying to say that it is in your interest to attend the lectures and tutorials as much as possible because the class sizes are very large, especially the tutorials. You know, that's the only forum where you get a little bit of more sort of attention. So you should use that opportunity to solve your problems, solve your doubts, and you're expected to solve the problems come prepared for the tutorial sessions. Yeah. So more on that a little later. We will be sharing the list of the course associates, hopefully in a couple of days. All right. I also wanted to remind you about academic honesty. Yeah. Uh, so, you know, it's obligatory on your part to be honest and not violate the academic integrity of the institute. Yeah. And please remember, you know, any form of academic dishonesty will not be tolerated and unfortunately or fortunately, you know, invite the harshest possible penalties as per the institute law. Yeah. So that is one. And the other thing I would like to say that, you know, these are especially difficult times for everybody because of this pandemic. So please let us know if anybody, you know, one of you or your family members are going through a particularly difficult period, and we will try to help you out as much as we can. Right. IT Bombay is actually a beautiful campus, and hopefully someday, you know, all of you will be here and we will be meeting in a physical classroom. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. So until then, let me try to sort of get started with this online mode of instruction, and let's see what do I have next. Okay. All right. So this was a little bit of introduction to the course. Let's get started with some contents about this course, right? Okay. So what is the very first thing, right? So what is the meaning of an ordinary differential equation? So what's an ordinary differential equation? Somebody has raised his hand again. Let me see. How do I go to that? Yes. You want to say something?
Actually, everyone have raised their hands in the starting, so you can just lower down everyone's hand.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Okay, so otherwise this will just keep coming in every now and then. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I hope by the next session, these little things would be ironed out and I would be sort of little more savvy and comfortable with this. Okay, so what is an ordinary differential equation? So I have an independent variable x here and y is the dependent variable. Yeah? So y denotes the function of the variable x. And what is an ordinary differential equation? An ordinary differential equation is an equation containing one or more derivatives of the unknown function y. Yeah. So the equation may contain the variable y itself, so which means sort of the zeroth derivative and the known functions of x, yeah, including constants, right? So an ordinary differential equation is a relation between y and its derivatives, yeah, and functions of x in the following manner. So what is to be remembered here is you have the single independent variable x and possibly one or more dependent variables. Yeah, that is what an ordinary differential equation is all about. So differential equations occur naturally in physics, engineering, and so on. And I'm sure you have seen many, many examples, right? For example, velocity, acceleration, these are all derivatives, and they give rise to differential equations, which I'm sure all of you have worked out, right? Okay. So this was about the definition of the ordinary differential equation. Um, what is an order of an ordinary differential equation? We say that the order of an ordinary differential equation is n if the nth derivative of the unknown function y is the highest derivative of y in the equation. Yeah. So the order of a differential equation is the order of the highest derivative that it contains, right? So let's see some examples. Let's see the first example, that of an object falling in the atmosphere near the sea level. Yeah? Suppose I have a body of mass m falling under the force of gravity. Yeah? So what are the forces acting on this object? There is the gravitational force and there is the drag force, right? Now, so if the mass is m, then the force due to gravity is m times g, correct? Where g is the gravitational constant, right? And the drag force, which acts in the direction opposite to gravity, would be given by some constant times v square, where v is the velocity, right? Now, Newton's second law of motion says that the net force acting on this object is m dv by dt, right? So that what do we get? We get that the net force acting on this object of mass m is the gravitational force plus the drag force due to air resistance, which leads us to the following differential equation. M dv by dt is mg, g is the gravitational constant, minus some constant c times the square of the velocity. Correct? So this is an ordinary differential equation. Yeah, the independent variable here is t and the dependent variable is v. Yeah, and what is the order of this differential equation? This is a differential equation of order 1. This is a first order differential equation. Correct? Yeah? I hope everybody is with me up till this point. Okay. So let's see another example, right? That of radioactive decay. Right? So we all know that a radioactive substance decomposes at a rate proportional to the amount present, right? So which means that if at time t I denote by yt the amount present at the time t, then what is that I can say? I can say the following, right? That dy by dt is proportional to y. Yeah. So there is a constant. So dy by dt is equal to some constant k times y, right? Again, you know, the independent variable here is t, the dependent variable here is y, and I have an ordinary differential equation, again, of order 1, right? So this is a first order differential equation. So you may all recall that this constant k is referred to as the decay constant in the literature. Yeah? So the point of these examples, which I think you know much better than I do, is to highlight that ordinary differential equation do play a very important role in day-to-day activities and in nature. Okay. Let's see. So let's see. The third example is about electrical circuits, right? What is that we have? So I have a basic RLC circuit. I have a resistor. I have an inductor, and I have a capacitor, right? Okay. And they are wired and connected to an electromotive force V, right? Okay. So this is the diagram, 11 standard physics. So what is that we know? So if Q is the total charge in the capacitor, then the current is dQ by dt, right? Um, and what is that we know? We know that the sum of voltage drop in resistor, inductor, and capacitor is equal to the input voltage, correct? Yeah, which means that the instantaneous voltage across a pure resistor, a pure inductor, and a pure capacitor is equal to sum of all of these is equal to the supply voltage, right? Which means that uh, one can rephrase whatever I said in terms of the current, the resistance of the resistor R, the inductance of the inductor L, and capacitance of the capacitor C. And what you get is a differential equation like this. Now, so the independent variable here is T, and what is the dependent variable here? It is Q, right? Is that okay? Yeah, so I have L d square Q by dt square plus R dQ by dt plus Q by C equals to Vt, right? So this is an example of a second order differential equation. So I hope this is all right with everybody present here. Um, Maybe I'll pause in another 10 minutes to take your questions, but let me see. Let's go ahead and see some more. Okay. When do we say that an ordinary differential equation is linear? If we say that an ordinary differential equation written in the following manner. Yeah. So I have ordinary differential equation. Recall this is a relation between the function y, its derivatives, and the functions of x and constants possibly. Yeah? We say that this is linear if f is a linear function of the variables y, the first derivative of y, and all the way up to the nth derivative of y. Yeah? So for example, an ordinary differential equation of order n is necessarily of the following form. Yeah. So I have a0, the nth derivative of y, plus a1 times n minus 1th derivative of y, plus all the way an times y equals b. Yeah. So recall, we are saying that f is linear function of the variables y, y prime, and all possible derivatives of y, which means that a0, a1, an, b, they are all allowed to be the functions of x alone. And if we allow and if we emphasize, we demand that this is an ordinary differential equation of order n, then the coefficient of the nth derivative, which is a0, better be non-degenerate, right? So what is to be noted here, if we say that this is a linear ordinary differential equation, that if the dependent variable is y, we cannot have products of y or its derivatives appearing in the differential equation, right? Functions of x can appear, but not the functions of y or its derivatives. Yeah, that's what linearity demands. Yes. Okay. Maybe if you see some examples that will help clarify what are linear ordinary differential equations. So let's see. Yeah, let's go back to the example that we considered earlier, that of a falling object of mass m falling in the atmosphere near the sea level. Yeah. So what did we say? We said that there are two forces acting here. That is the gravitational force and the drag force due to air resistance, which meant that the net force acting on this object is given as the sum of these two forces, right? Which led us to this differential equation of order 1. So the question here is, we all discussed that this is an ordinary differential equation of order 1. Is this linear or is this non-linear? Yeah. So we have a square of v appearing here. Remember, v is the dependent variable. So clearly, this is a non-linear differential equation, correct? Yeah. I hope this is all right with everybody present here. So let's see the next example. Let's go back to the example that we discussed earlier, that of radioactive decay. Yeah. So again, recall how did we frame the differential equation? We used this information that a radioactive substance decomposes at a rate proportional to the amount present, which means that if t is the time variable and y is the amount present at time t, then the differential equation describing this setup is given by dy by dt is k times y, where k is the decay constant, right? Now, again, the question we ask is the following. Yeah? We already know that this is a first order differential equation. Is this linear? Is this non-linear, right? So this is a linear differential equations because there are no functions of y or the derivatives of y which are appearing together, right? Okay. All right. So let me see. There's some people have raised their hands. Okay. Somebody wants to say something. I guess that's fine. Okay. All right. Let's continue. So let's revisit the example of electrical circuits. Okay, so we have a resistor and of resistance R ohms, and inductor with inductance L, capacitor of capacitance of the capacitor is C, and they're all connected to an electromotive force. Recall, if Q is the total charge in the capacitor at time t, then the differential equations describing this setup is the following. Yeah? So L d square Q by dt square plus R dq by dt plus Q by C is V, where yeah, L, R, and C are as described above, right? So this is an ordinary differential equation. Yes, this is an ordinary differential equation of order 2. And is this linear? Is this non-linear? And by the definition, we all agree that this is a linear ordinary differential equation of second order. Okay, let's see another example. So let's see the motion of an oscillating pendulum. Yeah, the motion of an oscillating pendulum can also be described by a differential equation. Yeah. So what is a setup here? I have an oscillating pendulum of length L. Yeah. So I have a frictionless pivot here, right? And I have a massless rod, and I have a massive bob of mass M, right? Right. So how do I describe this setup? So let's recall the Newton's second law of motion in the rotational form, which says that the torque is given as the product of the moment of inertia and acceleration, right? So maybe I'll just scribble something on journal. Let's see if this works. Okay, so let's. So I have this here, right? So I have, as I said, a frictionless pivot and a massive bob of mass M and a massless rod, right? So what does Newton's second law tell me in this setting? It says that, so this is the Newton's second law in rotational format. It says that the torque, which I denote by the symbol tau, is given as the product of I and alpha, where what is I and what is alpha? I is the moment of inertia, and alpha is the acceleration, right? So I in this setup is given by m and the length of this rod L square, and correct, and the torque. So I have the gravitational force mg, and if theta is this angle, then I have a component here which is mg sine theta, and I have a component in this direction which is mg cosine theta, right? Which means that the torque is given as minus of mg L sine theta. Is that correct? I hope so. Yeah. And the inertia is m times the square of the length of this rod, which means that applying the Newton's second law, I have an equality here, right? So I have the torque on the left hand side, and on the right hand side, I will have the moment of inertia times the acceleration, which is t square by dt by dt square, right? Which means that there are going to be some cancellations, which means that what is the differential equation describing this setup? I have a L d square by d square theta by dt square equals minus of the gravitational constant g times sine theta. Correct? Correct? So this is a differential equation of order 2. Is this linear? Is this non-linear? Right? So I have t is the independent variable and theta is the dependent variable, and I have a sine theta appearing here, right? So what can we say? Let's just go back to our slides. So this is a non-linear differential equation because of this sine function appearing here, right? So I hope up till this point is okay with everybody. Maybe I'll take a small pause here to take any questions. Please raise your hand if you have a question. So does that mean nobody has raised his hands so far? So okay, somebody has. All right. Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me, Om. Yeah.
Ma'am, in the electric circuit case, we are having V as a function of t, right?
Correct. Yeah,
So can't we say that V is also a dependent variable?
Let me see.
I'm saying that.
Correct. I got your point. Yeah. Let me think. I'm just thinking aloud here. So I think some of your friends want to help. Let me just hear their viewpoint. Give me a minute. Yes, Dhaval and who's this person? Kartike, you want to say something?
Ma'am, I had a doubt in the last example.
Yeah, I'll come to that. Yeah, but let's answer, Om's question. Somebody wants to say about the question Om has raised?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
So ma'am, V of t will anyway be, let's say it's like t square. So it will be like in terms of t only. So we can't call V as V as a variable in itself. It will give some function of t, which then can be solved in terms of only q and t. So that way, I think V of t won't be an independent variable, that dependent variable that way, because we can always substitute it as some, say, polynomial function of t. or let's say sine t. So that would work anyway. So it will be a linear, right?
See, this is what I know, but maybe, I'll check and get back to you, Om, right?
Okay,
I
sure.
think, I would trust your friends much more than me, on these, but I'll just get back to you on this. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
There are other people who have raised hands, so let me sort of take their questions. So Dhaval,
Yes, ma'am. I didn't have a doubt. I was just
oh, you
checking
don't
it.
have? Okay.
I wanted to answer this question. So,
Correct,
ma'am,
correct. Please go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Potential is a known function, so this can be a possible argument.
Say that again, please.
Ma'am, the v is a known function. and
Correct,
Q is
correct.
Yeah,
a-
known function, exactly.
Correct.
So it's
That's
not
all.
a variable. It's not a variable.
Correct,
It's in
correct,
t.
correct. That's all. Yeah, it's a known function.
Yep.
That's all.
Yep.
That's all. And
Because
why?
eventually q of t will also be a function in t only, but it is not known. That is the one we are trying
Correct.
to figure
So,
out with the
right,
differential
right. So
equation.
we are looking for the
Q of
solutions
t.
of Q in
Right.
terms of T. Right. That's the
Exactly.
whole point. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess this settles your query, Om. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. I still have some questions. People have raised hand. Let me try to unmute. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
What if the Vt is sine t? Can it be a linear also then?
So what will happen if Vt is sine t? Think about it a little minute.
How can we say that?
T is the independent variable and Q is the dependent variable. So even if Vt is sine t, I don't see a problem there.
Sorry, ma'am, I forgot to.
Hello,
raise my
ma'am.
hand.
Yes, yes, yes.
Ma'am, can you share the last example slide?
Give me a minute. Huh?
Yeah.
So last example means here what? The oscillating pendulum, is it?
Yes, ma'am. The last equation that you wrote is this one.
Okay. Over
Okay.
here.
In this, ma'am, as you said, it is non-linear. I
Right,
agree.
right.
But in physics, we are taught that if, as you know, that if theta is very small, then
Correct,
sine theta
correct.
tends to theta. So
Right, right. So then you approximate sine theta by theta, right?
yes.
When theta is very small, you are replacing sine theta by theta. And then, theta, that is a linear variable. But, right?
But are we? But as I want to ask that, are we dealing with exact mathematics? Yes, if we are dealing with exact functions, then I don't think that we can substitute sine theta by theta. We have to apply Taylor series. Like someone pointed this out. I thought that I was correct, but I wanted to confirm my doubt. That can we, if theta is very small, then can we easily substitute sine theta by theta and say that it is linear?
See, physics, you do a lot of approximations to
Yes,
to sort of approximate real life models, right? And
Yes.
maths, for example, here we are sort of doing sort of very, very theoretical aspects, right? Is that okay? So there is a difference between, doing an experiment setting in the laboratory and, going outside and applying it in the real world, right? So that's exactly your question, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? So Dhaval,
Hello. Yeah, ma'am. So, I mean, I didn't have this question initially, but now I do. So let's say sine theta, we put the Taylor expansion of sine theta in there. So then it should be fine, right? Or not? If approximated to the first, if approximated to the
if approximated to just the first one, right? Theta.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there will be, terms like
theta square and theta cube, which wouldn't work.
Right.
Also, ma'am, so like when we said that it is an n order, like n is the highest power of the derivative, does n need to be finite?
See, we are talking about ordinary. Yes. So for
Okay.
us, everything is finite here. Yeah.
Okay, so n needs to be finite. So if we have an infinite series, then of derivatives, like if we say dy by dx plus d2 by dx square up to dn by whatever, and n is tending to infinity, it wouldn't be called an ordinary differential or equation which is linear.
See, in this setup, it is not, but maybe there are some generalizations and people are analyzing it.
Sure.
Yeah,
Got
maybe
it.
there are. Yeah, I'm sure that is a subject of investigation. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Somebody else has a question. Aryan.
Ma'am, I just wanted to ask, like, is the series like Fourier series a ordinary differential equation or not?
Fourier series, for example, can you sort of pinpoint an example?
Like, ma'am, like in Fourier series, the general expression that we write, like f of in terms of x and h, like I don't exactly remember that expression.
I don't see any derivatives appearing there. Are they?
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, not Fourier series, Taylor series.
Taylor series. Taylor series.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. See, Aryan, I'll sort of, what do you mean by Taylor series and ordinary differential equations? See, meaning, how do you put them together?
Because, ma'am, like in Taylor series,
Let's look at the Taylor expansion of the function sin x, right? Yeah. So what is the relation between ordinary differential equation and Taylor series expansion?
No, ma'am, in the general expression for any function, it was a collection of derivatives, like we were summing the derivatives.
Correct.
That's where I was relating it to.
See, Aryan, I'll postpone this discussion to the end of the lecture. Yeah, say maybe at 3:25 if you're available. Yeah, is that okay? Yeah. Anybody else? I have Pratham who wants to say something.
Yeah, ma'am. I just wanted to add to Aryan's question. Like, for example, I guess even like the double differentiation of sin x equals minus sin x, that was used to derive the Taylor series, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So basically, the Taylor series was derived from a differential equation.
Correct.
Yeah, like that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Somebody else has something to say, or so Aryan and Dhaval, I have seen Kartike, Bhargavi. Bhargavi, you want to say something? Okay, so maybe I'll proceed at this point. If I am not able to take your questions now, I will take them a little later at towards the end of this class. Is that okay? Yeah, let's just go ahead. Okay, all right. All right, so we had discussed few examples of linear differential equations, few examples of non-linear differential equations. Let's see an example. Let's work it out. So what is the question here? We have given an amount of a radioactive substance and we have to find the amount present at a later time, right? So we have already formulated a differential equation for this setup, which says that if Y is the radioactive substance present at time t, then there is a first order linear differential equation dy by dt equals ky, describing the setting where k is the decay constant. What is given to us is that at time t equal to 0, y is 1, correct? Okay, all right. Then what do we do? So far we do not know how to solve an ordinary differential equation, so to say. So let's look at it. Yeah, so I analyze and I say that if I consider this function y defined as exponential kt, right, where and c is some arbitrary constant, then this function, this satisfies this differential equation, yeah, which means that if I plug in y equals c times exponential kt, this is a solution of this ordinary differential equation. And I can use this initial condition that at time t equal to 0, y equals to 1 to determine what is this constant c, right? So small calculation shows that c equals 1, right? So that means that y equal to exponential kt, this is a particular solution of this ordinary differential equation with the given initial condition, right? Yeah, this is a very small example, right? Let's see. Okay, let's see another example. Yeah, so this is from coordinate geometry. So let's find the curve in the xy plane passing through the point 1, 1, and such that the slope at each point is given by negative y by x, right? So that means that I can look at this ordinary differential equation. So the slope at the point x comma y is given as minus of y by x, right? So which means that I have a first order differential equation dy by dx equals minus y by x. And I also know that when x is 1, then y is 1, yeah, because the point 1, 1 is in this, lies on this curve. Okay. Again, by inspection, I say that if I define y equal to c by x, then this is a solution to this differential equation, right? And remember, what is this? Y equal to c by x. This is a family of hyperbolas, right? And this initial condition that x equal to 1, at x equal to 1, y equals to 1, allows us to calculate c, which is 1 in this case, right? So which means that a particular solution to the above differential equation is y equals 1 by x. Yeah? Okay. So what are we trying to do here? So this is the problem that we have at hand. Yeah, given an ordinary differential equation, we would like to solve it, or at least, try to solve it. Now, what is this? Many things that we can ask here. What is the solution of a differential equation? Does an equation, ordinary differential equation, always have a solution? If so, is the solution unique? If the solution is not unique, how many solutions does an ordinary differential equation admit? And how do we proceed in a systematic manner? How do we sort of attack this problem of solving a differential equation? Shall we look up at the order, first order, second order, third order, or shall we look at linear differential equation first, or shall we look at non-linear differential equations? Yeah, there are various sort of parameters to be analyzed. So this is the goal, but let's see. Before that, what is the meaning of solution of a differential equation, right? And is there a way where we can attribute a geometric meaning to this? So let's recall a first order differential equation given as follows. X is the independent variable, y is the dependent variable, dy by dx is fxy. Yeah? So f is a function of x as well as y. Now suppose that f is defined on a planar region D, and suppose that y equals f phi x is a solution curve, right? And x naught, y naught is a point on this solution curve, right? Then the slope at x naught, y naught is f x naught, y naught. Now you should ask here, what do I mean by slope? So the slope of the tangent to the graph of a solution curve y equal to phi x at the point x naught, y naught is f of x naught, y naught, right? Is that okay? I'll repeat that one more time. The slope of the tangent line to the graph of the solution curve y equal to phi x at the point x naught, y naught is given as f times x naught, y naught. Sorry, f evaluated at x naught, y naught, right? Is that okay? So this suggests the following thing, right? So let's do the following. So at each point of this planar domain D, I'm going to assign a unit vector with slope given as f evaluated at the point AB, right? So I get a mapping from where to where? I get a mapping from D into R2 defined as follows. So at each point AB of this region D, I have associated a unit vector with slope f evaluated at the point AB. Now this has a name. This is called as the direction field. Now what is this direction field doing for us? Yeah. So the direction field, or also called as the slope field, is a graphical representation of the solutions of a first order differential equation. Now, how is this a solution, right? So what is happening here? Yeah, so let me say the following. So imagine that you are standing at this point x0, y0, and in this region D, right? And the differential equation dy by dx equal to fxy, this determines your future location. Now, where should you go next? Yeah, so maybe just too much to absorb verbally. Maybe I'll just write this down. Yeah, so sort of trying to explain to you the direction fields. Okay, so I am at this region D in R2, and x0, y0 is a point here, right? So imagine that you are standing at this point, and this differential equation is going to determine your location, right? Your future location. So where should you go next? What do you do? So what do? You move along a curve. Which curve? Whose tangent line at the point x0, y0 has slope given as follows. So this has slope at the point x0, y0 determined by this differential equation, which means f evaluated at the point x0, y0, right? So you move along the curve whose tangent line at this point x0, y0 has slope determined by this differential equation in this manner. So what do? At each point, you draw a short line segment such that the slope is the value of the function f at the point x0, y0, right? So for a given pair x0, y0, you are associating a vector. You're associating a vector with components 1, f evaluated at the point x0, y0. And this can be done at each point of this region D. So that means that you are defining a vector field here, right? Is that okay? Yeah, so I hope all of this makes sense to everybody present here, but let me revert back to my slides. So here it is. Now, so you do this, you associate a vector field to each point of the region D, right? And a drawing of this vector field at a large number of points gives us approximate solution curves. Now, these are extremely useful because these solution curves can be created without actually solving this differential equation analytically. And what is to be noted here is that along the curves fxy equal to constant, where c is a constant, the slopes are constant, right? Is that okay? So these curves are called as isoclines. Yeah. So what are isoclines? Isoclines are curves in the xy plane obtained by setting fxy equal to constant. So I'll maybe write it again. So what are isoclines? Isoclines are obtained by setting fxy equal to constant. So as this constant c is varying, you get a series of curves for different constants along which the solution curves have the same gradient. And by calculating this gradient for each isocline, the slope field can be visualized, right? Making it relatively easy to sketch the approximate solution curves, right? So isoclines are used to supplement the information about the slope field. So we'll see some examples to sort of put all of this in practice. Let's see. Yeah? Let's consider the first order differential equation. So I have dy by dx equals x times y. Now, what are the isoclines here? The isoclines are defined by setting the right hand side to constant, right? So which means that these are hyperbolas xy equal to k. And if I set this constant k to be 0, then I get the coordinate axes, correct? And what are the direction fields? The direction fields means at each point xy, you are associating a vector which starts at the point xy with slope given by f evaluated at the point xy, right? So at each point xy, you are associating this vector 1 comma in this example xy, correct? And this is something to be for you to check, that for the differential equation in this example, the solutions are of the form exponential x square by 2, right? But I think I have a picture here to describe the isoclines and the differential equation and the direction field. Remember that the isoclines are the hyperbolas xy equal to k and the coordinate axes. So the isoclines here in this diagram are drawn in blue and the direction fields are in black. Yeah, so those are those arrows here, and the direction fields are useful in approximating the solution curves because at least in this example, one can work out the solution curves, which are the pink lines, and the direction fields give us an approximation to the solution curves. Okay, so maybe I'll pause here. Many people have raised their hands. Yeah, so let's see. So Akshat, you want to say something?
Yeah, ma'am, I wanted to ask that, is there something like the solution curves will be orthogonal to the isoclines?
There are things like that, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
But that's not a general thing.
I think there is something like that in general. Maybe I'll check and get back to you. Yeah? I think there's a concept of orthogonal trajectory, which actually sort of clarifies exactly your question.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So I'll get back to you on this. So I think there's some friends of yours also have raised their hand. Yeah. Avichal, you want to say something?
Yeah, hello. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Ma'am, how have we plot the black lines, like the field lines? How have we plot them?
See, the black lines are, see, the volume is very low. The black lines are the direction fields, right? So at each point, as I said this, so at each point xy, I am associating a unit vector at the point xy with slope xy. So, if I have to associate a vector, I know the magnitude of the vector, which is 1, and I know the direction, then I can draw that, right?
So, no, ma'am, I'm not getting. Can you explain once again? Like,
See, at the point x naught, y naught, see, this is what I have written. So at the point x naught, y naught, you associate a vector, a unit vector. Yeah, so what is the direction field? I'll just write that clearly. So direction fields. So at the point x comma y, you associate a vector, unit vector, such that the magnitude of this vector is 1 and the slope is evaluated by this ordinary differential equation. Yeah, remember you have a first order differential equation, dy by dx equals to fxy, right? So at the point xy, you have a vector with slope given by this quantity. So those are in black ink.
So what is that one? Like 1 comma f of xy?
So if I have to quantify, if I have to quantify, right, this is, so let me write it as x naught, y naught, fx naught, yeah. So if I have to quantify a vector with slope f of x naught, y naught, then what would you do? This is one way of doing it, right? Isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, this is just one way of putting that analytically, correct? Yes, is that okay?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Correct, is that okay? Does that answer your question? Correct?
Yes, ma'am. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
and those are the black lines here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Somebody else wants
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So, Tribhuvan, yeah. Something?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, good.
Ma'am, could you show that slide of h of AB?
Yes, I will. Give me a minute. So you mean the definition of the direction fields?
Yeah, direction fields and isoclines.
Yes, here it is. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So, ma'am, AB does not lie on y is equal to 5x. And what is AB and what is D actually? I didn't get it.
See, AB is any arbitrary point of the region D.
So like XY plane completely.
Depending, yeah, maybe, if the function f is defined on whole of R2, then you can take D to be the whole of R2.
Okay.
Depends on the domain of definition of this function f. Correct?
Okay.
Is that okay? Yeah. AB
Yeah.
is any arbitrary point, so of this region D.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, is that
Got
okay?
it.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
That's fine. So let me see somebody else. So is that all? Akshat, you want to say something? And
no, ma'am, I just asked.
okay, all right. So then do we go ahead? So I've taken all the questions for now. Avichal and Pratham, I don't know if they want to say something now. Pratham and Avichal, do you have some questions?
Sorry, ma'am. No,
Okay.
ma'am. I just forgot to lower my hand.
No problem. No problem. Yeah. Okay. So then I think we are all set, and let's go ahead. Okay. So we saw what are direction fields. We saw what are isoclines. We saw an example, and now let's try to analytically solve differential equations. Right. So so it seems, right, there is no general method to solve an arbitrary first order differential equation. So what we will do is we will look at special forms of ODEs and try to solve them, right? So when you given a sort of ODE, you have to sort of identify which category does it fall in and try to solve it, right? So here is one such example, right? So what do we mean by separable ordinary differential equations? So an ordinary differential equations is said to be separable if it takes the following form, right? So I have M plus n dy by dx equal to 0, right? So what is special here? M is a function of the variable x alone and n is the function of the variable y alone, right? How do we solve such ODEs, right? So here is a um, suggestion, right? So let's assume this. Suppose that y is a solution of this ODE described in equation 1, right? Let us assume that I can lay my hands on antiderivatives m tilde and n tilde of the functions m and n respectively. Yes. So what do you mean by this? I mean that that derivative of m tilde is m and the derivative of n tilde is n. Now let's apply the chain rule, which will give me the following: that if I differentiate so there's some voice coming, sorry. So yeah, let's get back to the slide. So what do I get if I apply the chain rule? I get the following, that the derivative of n tilde with respect to the variable x is n times the derivative of y with respect to the variable x, correct? Now but let's use the equation 1, which will tell us that the derivative of n tilde is nothing but the negative of the derivative of m tilde, correct? Yeah, which means that if I can integrate both the sides of this last equation with respect to x, what do I get? I get the following, that n tilde, which is a function of y alone, plus m tilde equals some constant c, correct? Where c is the constant of integration. Is that correct? Is everybody with me? Right? So I assume that there is a solution y of this first order separable ordinary differential equation as given by equation 1, right? And I assume that the functions m and n have antiderivatives m tilde and n tilde. Yeah? If that happens, then I say that this is the following. Now, what is, what is that I'm trying to do here? Yeah, let me try to say that. So although we derive this equation, which means I derive this equation 3 on the assumption that y is a solution of 1, we can now view it differently. What do I do? Any differential equation y that satisfies 3 for some constant c is a solution of 1. Yeah? I repeat one more time. I say that any differentiable function y that satisfies equation 3 for some constant c is a solution of 1. Yeah. So let me sort of write this down for clarity. Yeah. So remember, my ODE is given as follows. I have this ODE mx plus ny dy by dx equal to 0, right? M is a function of the variable x alone and n is a function of the variable y alone, yeah? So I started with let y be a solution of this ODE. I labeled it as 1. And let's consider the antiderivatives m tilde and n tilde of m and n respectively, right? And then the calculation showed that, what is that I get? I get the following, right? Let me just sort of borrow it from the slide. Then I get that n tilde plus, yeah, so what do I have? Then so what is it? I say that assuming that y is a solution, I arrive at equation 3. And I am claiming the following, that any, so let me write that down, maybe just too much to absorb orally, that any differentiable function y that satisfies equation 3 is indeed a solution of the ODE. Yeah? I should clarify, for some constant C is a solution of the ODE as described in 1. Right? Now I need to sort of justify this claim, right? Okay. So how do I say this? So let's start with equation 3, and I want to claim that y which satisfies equation 3 is a solution of 1, right? Okay, so let's start with 3. Yeah, so and let's differentiate both sides of 3 using the chain rule, right? So let me write that down. Differentiating both the sides of equation 3 using the chain rule. What do I get? I will get the following. Yeah, so I have the derivative of n tilde, right, times the derivative of y with respect to x plus the derivative of m tilde equals 0, right? Right. But remember, you know, n tilde and m tilde are both antiderivatives of n and m respectively, yeah? Which means that, what does this imply? This means that I have n of y prime x plus m tilde is an antiderivative of m, right? This equals 0, right? This is because of the way m tilde and n tilde are chosen, correct? And this is exactly the differential equation that we started off with. So the upshot of all of this is the following, that to solve this separable ODE, so I'll just sort of write that down for clarity. To solve the ODE as given in equation 1, it suffices to find antiderivatives m tilde and n tilde such that what happens? So find m tilde and n tilde which are antiderivatives of m and n. Yeah, so satisfying 2, that is m tilde is an antiderivative of m and n tilde is an antiderivative of n. So if I can get hold of antiderivatives m tilde and n tilde of m and n respectively, then the analysis above shows that any differentiable function y such that which satisfies the equation 3. What is the equation 3? Here it is. N tilde y plus m tilde x equal to constant. This is a solution of the given ODE. So although we started with the assumption that y is a solution of 1, we can view all of this differently and say that any differentiable function y which satisfies this equation 3, namely n tilde y plus m tilde x equal to constant for some constant, indeed gives a solution of this differential equation, right? So let's try to apply this knowledge to actually solving a separable ordinary differential equation. Okay, let's see an example. Right. So I have this differential equation dy by dx equals minus of 2xy. Um, so the first thing is that I should be able to identify that this is a separable differential equation, and the next thing is that I should separate the variables. So which means that I must divide by y and write it in the following manner. dy by y is minus of 2x dx. Now here you should ask, this may not be well defined if y is a solution of this differential equation that takes the value 0 for some values of x, right? So how do we get around this problem? In fact, if you look at it, y identically 0 is indeed a solution of this differential equation, correct? So how do we fix this problem? How do we justify division by y in this case, right? So let's see. Yeah, let me write that down. So let's see. Here I have an example. Right. So by inspection, y identically 0 is a solution. Of the given ODE. Correct? I hope everybody is with me. Okay. So suppose that y equal to y of x is a solution to this ODE. That is not identically 0. Correct? Now, y is not identically 0 and y is a solution to this differential equation, which means that y is differentiable. In particular, y is continuous, right? So since y is continuous and y is not identically 0, there must be an interval on which y is never 0, correct? Yeah, so I'm going to write that down. So since y is continuous, there must be an interval on which y is never 0, correct? So on this interval, there is absolutely no problem if I divide by y, correct? So what am I going to do? I'm going to do all my analysis on this interval. Okay? I'm going to separate the variables and write dy by y is equal to minus of 2x, right? And then I'm going to integrate both sides, right? So which means that I will get a logarithm is minus x square plus some constant, which I'm going to leave as C1, which means that I can write, this is the same thing as saying that y is given as exponential of minus x square, right? And you can absorb this constant in this manner here, right? So what has we shown? We have shown that if y is a solution to the given ADE that is not identically 0, then y must be of this form, correct? I will write that down. We have shown that if y is a solution of the given ODE, that is not identically 0, then y must be of the form c times exponential minus x square for some constant c. Correct? So I hope all of this is okay with everybody present here, right? So, indeed, we are separating the variables and integrating, but we should sort of be comfortable with this idea of division of y, and we should know why we can do that, right? All right. So, one can plot these solution curves. And if we are given this initial condition that at x equal to x naught, y takes the value y naught, then one can also compute the constant c, correct? Okay, let's look at another separable first order ordinary differential equation. Again, we will assume y is not equal to 0 because, you analyze that y identically 0 is a solution. And as before, you need to divide by y in order to separate the variables. And to justify that, you look at the following scenario. Yeah, you say that y equal to yx is a solution of the given ODE that is not identically 0, right? Now, again, since y is continuous, there must be an interval on which y does not vanish. And hence, you can divide by, on this interval, you can carry out these calculations, which will enable you to write down the solution in this manner, right? And using the initial data that at x equal to 0, y is 1, you can write down a particular solution to this initial value problem, right? Please note that y identically 0 is indeed a solution to this differential equation, but since it does not satisfy the initial data given, y identically 0 is not a solution to the given initial value problem, right? Something to be kept in mind. Okay, I think I'll just do one more example before we stop for today's session. So the example is that of escape velocity. Now, what is escape velocity? Please recall, escape velocity is the speed at which the sum of the projectile kinetic energy and gravitational potential energy is 0, correct? Right? So suppose I have a projectile of mass m moving in a direction perpendicular to the surface of Earth. And if the initial velocity is v naught, what is that we want to do? We want to calculate the height that this projectile reaches, right? Now, how do we do this? We note the following, right? So what is the force exerted on this projectile? What is the force exerted on this projectile by the gravitational field? This force is m times g, right? The mass times the gravitational constant. And on the other hand, we also know that this gravitational force is inversely proportional to the square of distance from the center of the Earth, right? Which will lead you to the following thing. That the equation of motion is given as following, right? Again, this is a differential equation, and given that the initial velocity is v naught, we have this initial value problem. Formulating this setup. So I think I'll just stop right here for today, and take your questions if at all, and we will continue from this point next meeting onwards. Yeah, I see some students have raised your hand. Ayush, you want to say something?
I wanted to ask about the tutorial groups.
Yes, tell me.
Yeah, so have the groups been formed? Like we haven't received any invite links yet.
Just a
They
minute.
are on Wednesday.
Sorry.
I mean, the tutorials are on Wednesday, and we haven't received any invite links
See,
for the
for
teams.
this Wednesday, we are not going to have any tutorials. I'll just get back to you. Let me just stop the recording.